I started as a dancer by winning a world championship dance competition, and then I realized that I couldn't continue as a dancer for the rest of my life, and then I became an agent and handled most of the stars throughout the world. And then I was one of the principal founders of independent television and formed a company first that was called ITC, and then we became ATV, and that's my life story in about 3 words.
ITV started in London in autumn '55. By the summer of '56, we were all going broke, either faster or slower.
We lost a lot of money. It was very tough. Everybody thought it was a gold mine, but it wasn't. In the first, I would say about 8 or 9 months of television, all the money was gone. And it was the same with all the other contractors.
The aim in those days was to put on shows that would get people watching, that would get the advertisers advertising, and that was life and death.
Well, when ITV started in the middle 50s, the audience who enjoyed populist programming was not catered for. Or they were only catered for in a slightly shamefaced way, occasionally by the BBC. We were left with a legacy that the concept of broadcasting was always to persuade people to reach a little above their normal taste. Broadcasting was more geared to informing and to educating than to entertaining. Lou saw very clearly this huge gap, and he set about filling it immediately.
I remember once Lou was asked about what kind of educational programs he was going to put on, you see, and he said, I'm not here to educate the public, I'm here to entertain them.
Old Man River, that old man.
Yes?
The word old, Mr. Dawson, it has a connotation that some of the more elderly people might find distasteful. I would suggest you make the substitution, please.
I suppose you insist?
Exactly.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Parnell, please.
Elderly Man River, that elderly Man River, he don't do nothing, he must say something.
Yes, Mr. Taylor.
The word something, Mr. Dawson, you left off the G.
No, that's authentic, Mr. Taylor. That's the way they say it.
But the home is a classroom, Mr. Dawson. We must keep in mind the tiny tots.
Populist entertainment has its own specific appeal, and Lou could put his finger on it again and again in the great days. He had vast audiences. We could do with them now, actually.
I suppose ATV at that time was the lightest of all the contractors because of Lou Gray's background, light entertainment. It tended to concentrate on that and was the most frivolous of them. I remember Bernard Levin's column in the Guardian once describing ATV's output as an incessant cataract of drivel. And anyway, trying to put this right, bit of PR work, Lou decided to devote one evening to a rendition of Hamlet, which was going to be shown direct from the theatre where it was playing. And so Lou is at home and he's watching this thing proudly. He's now a man of culture. And suddenly, during the dueling scene between Hamlet and Laertes, suddenly the engineer in the switching centre watched the clock, threw the switch, and and we were presented with this top shot of a pan of sausages. And Alexander Gage, with his wonderful, rich, fruity voice, used to do this commercial for Wall's sausages, and he goes, Wall's sizzling sausages, you see. Lou, of course, was absolutely incensed and realised that this whole exercise had backfired on him, and he totally enraged and lifted the phone and got through to the studio. Put me through to whoever's responsible for this outrage, and they put him through to the post office switching centre where this engineer was sitting there, and Lou said, Lou Grade here, what happened to Hamlet? And he said, oh, he dies, sir.
So ATV were always the song and dance company, the light entertainment company, and they did it with great panache.
Thanks for the present of the silver blue mink. Thanks for the plane and the ice skating rink. Thanks for the yacht and for the solid gold sink. Thanks a lot, but no thanks. Thanks for the Scrabble set with platinum board. Thanks for the factory once known as Ford. Thank you for finding me the famous lost chord. Thanks a lot, but no thanks.
Their big thing was the Palladium. They talked about the Palladium the whole time. That was Sunday night, of course. For 6, 7 years, I don't know, the Palladium was the hub of the ITV schedule.
Well, did you see the girls? One of the girls, half of them were worrying about their sons doing their national service. But makes a change to see a bunch of girls like that on television, because I feel that these days we're getting too many medical shows, you know, Emergency Ward 10, then they transmit from the operating theatre of a hospital. You know, if this carries on much longer, next year you'll be able to get your TV licence on the National Health. And any expectant mother that beats the clock gets the jackpot.
I suppose the best story remembered is the opening night. And we had a full dress rehearsal on the previous Sunday. And if you remember the formula, it was sort of opening variety, beat the clock in the middle, big star at the end. That was basically it. And being live, the whole set on the stage had a change in the 2.5 minutes of commercial break. And to change from the last act of the first half into Beat the Clock was horrendous, because it was quite a big set to change into. And the first time the Palladium staff tried this, it took them 15 minutes, and they only had 2.5 minutes to do it. And this was on the dress rehearsal on the previous Sunday. And eventually they got it down to around about 8 minutes, and they couldn't reduce it any further. And Lou panicked, and he said to me, we're not going to make it. I said, we will. We're not going to make it. I said, okay, don't worry. So he still panicked, and I said, all right, what's it worth? He said, a weekend in Paris. All up. Nothing barred. I said, do you mean that? He said, yes. I said, for my stage manager as well? He said, of course. So I trotted down and I said to Frank Beale, who was my stage manager, can we make this, Frank? He said, yes, the boys just haven't got used to it. I said, okay, you're on. Told him what the deal was, and of course, on the night, we made it. And I got the most fabulous weekend in Paris I've ever had in my life.
Lou had a very good background team. Bill Ward, Brian Tesler, Albert Locke, Bill Lyons-Shaw, all our team, you know. The whole of ATV was very, very solid in manpower. It took a lot from the BBC, of course, but it was a very, very solid company. And we had enormous pull, and we had enormous pull with Accent America as well, you see.
The name of Val Parnell and the name of Lou Grade, I mean, these are the people who brought huge stars after the war to the London Palladium. London Palladium was part of ATV. We did Sunday night at the London Palladium. And so the ability to attract stars was unique to ATV in those days, in my area of light entertainment. So inevitably it was exciting. I was able to work with the biggest and the best. And that was a great thrill.
I think Val Parnell brought me over to play the Palladium. And Val and Lou were in business together. They started their first commercial network. And I did a show at the Palladium, and then the last show I invited Lou up to do the Charleston, which he did, and I think Val played a bit in one of the sketches. Always had a lot of fun with him.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, Bob Hope.
Thank you very, very much. It's a beautiful sight. And I'm so happy to be here, ladies and gentlemen, at this Palladium, the great Palladium theater where show business was born. And typical of show business, nobody knows who the father was. This week I'm going to Elton to check my roots. Of course, the house I was born in, Elton, has been torn down, but you'd think someone would have kept the manger. No, I love coming to Britain to entertain. People who drive on the wrong side of the street, they need all the entertainment they can get, I'll tell you that.
Sunday night at the Palladium was always number one. And the show that's the most popular gets the most attention. They forget all the other things that we did. We went in for every type of program imaginable. We had a broad base. We tried to cover every sphere of what the public might like.
Lou believed totally in the idea of doing film series. When all the other television companies were against it, he persevered.
I had read every one of Leslie Charteris's books, The Saint. I loved them. And one day, a friend of mine, a producer called Bob Baker, came to me. He said, I think we can get the rights for Leslie Charteris's The Saint. Who will play it? I said. He said, Roger Moore is interested in doing it. I said, wonderful. I love Roger. He looks terrific, and he'd be great for it, and that's exactly how long it took.
Lou said he thought, when we got face to face after a number of years not having seen one another, and I was going to do it, he said, I think you look too young, and we should grow you up a little. That was the discussion we had about it.
Look out. Look out. That's all it is. Sweetie. Sweetie.
What happened?
He tried to kill you.
And this gentleman stopped him.
At least I should know the name of the man to whom I owe my life.
You mean you don't? Your Majesty, may I present the infamous Simon Templar?
Of course, I believe that The Saints were my biggest success in television film series. We made 143 episodes with Roger Moore, and he was absolutely wonderful.
As somebody who plays the leading man most of the time in action adventure, quote, there really is no depth in the character, and so you have to sell your own personality, which is why they all look like me, and even worse, sound like me.
Oh, Daniel. Excuse me, Daniel. Nice to see you, old chap. How's it been going? You're looking marvelous. Come along, I want to show you. Oh, Crane, nice to see you. This is a friend of mine, Daniel Wilde, Esquire, from New York. Right proud to make your acquaintance, sir. That's New York, Louisiana. How'd you do? How do you do? Oh, pretty, sir. I do very pretty. Yes. Would you please excuse us? Come along, Daniel. Who are you supposed to be, Scarlett O'Hara? Oh, you're not exactly Cary Grant yourself, you know. Watch what you're doing with that wand. Look, whatever we are, we stay.
And I got a call one morning. I was living in Stanmore, and I got a call from Lou. He said, I'd like to see you in the morning. And I said, where are you, Lou? He said, in California. I said, it's a hell of a long way to come. He said, no, I'll be back. I'll be back, my son, he said. And he said, be in the office at 7. I said, oh, come on, Lou. How about 8? He said, well, 7:30. So I got there at 7:30. And he said, I've sold The Persuaders. I said, but Lou, I was really not going to do any more television. I decided. We discussed it. He said, yeah, because I've sold it. I said, but it's sort of immoral, Lou, to sell something somebody doesn't want to do. He said, well, the country needs the money. He says, think of the Queen. So he said, all right. So I thought of the Queen. And he said, right, now, who do you want to do it with?
Lou gave both Tony Curtis and Roger Moore a contract to have first billing, which was the only way he could get the two of them to sign the contract, and then worried about it afterwards. And of course, it eventually resolved itself. So if you ever see The Persuaders, have a look at the opening title sequence, and I defy anybody to work out who was billed first.
Written, I think it was about 10 Protector scripts, and we were very, very close to shooting. And I was at I think it was a Screenwriters Guild Awards dinner, and at this particular dinner, Larry Dawn Porter was presenting the awards.
I sat down and suddenly the cigar appeared over my right-hand shoulder, and followed by this rather nice, shiny face. And it was Lord Lou, as he is now, isn't he? I think he is. And he said, I want you to do a television series for me. Will you shake on it? And I said, yes. I mean, just like that. And then I said, what's it called? He said, never mind. I said, where are the scripts? They'll be written for you.
And I was in the bar drinking away, and suddenly I felt this heavy hand on my shoulder. And he said, where have you been? I mean, I've been searching for you all night, you see. And because I'd had a few drinks, I sort of said, listen, I'm off duty, you don't mind if I, come to the bar. And he said, well, never mind about that. I've got some marvellous news. I've just signed Larry Dawn Porter for the second lead in The Protectors. And I said, but Lou, the second lead is a man. And he said, oh, well, never mind, you'll have to rewrite the scripts, won't you?
Sorry to drag you away. Were you making progress?
Well, let's say no regress.
So glad you could come. May I introduce Harry Rule?
Hello, Mr. Rule. How are you?
Mr. Rule is a reporter from Rome magazine. He wants to know all about contraband gold.
There was no expense spared on that show as far as
money put into location shooting. We were all over Europe. We shot top quality locations. No expenses were spared in any area.
Criminals in the world here.
So there is a new supply. Big?
Lord Grade is probably the last of that kind who sees an idea, develops it in terms of putting the team together from the stars to the production people, and then basically doesn't get involved after that.
He never visits the set. He says his idea was that it impinges on the authority of the directors and people who are getting on with it. He does keep a close eye on things, though, up there. My God.
On one famous occasion, he came down to the studio and he brought along with him the entire ATV board. It was all to do with Thunderbirds, which we were shooting at that time. And this great big fleet of Rolls Royces took off from Skindles and arrived at the studio. We had, at the time, 6 film units working simultaneously on 6 different stages. And everything was set up so that as the party went from one stage to another, it just so happened that on each stage they had the most wonderful shot that they were just about to do as they walked through the door. Of course, the whole thing was being controlled by telephone from sort of a nerve centre. Anyway, cut a long story sideways, they went through all 6 stages. It was tremendously successful. And then they went on to the last stage, which was one of our special effects stages. And it just so happened that they were going to do a very spectacular shot where they were going to blow up 5 vehicles. And the special effects director said to them, he said, look, gentlemen, I think you ought to stand over here, away from the blast. And he lined them up and said, look, as long as you stay there, you'll be safe. And they did the shot, and there were 5 tremendous explosions, very impressive. But up in the rafters, there was a sheet of hardboard, which over the years had accumulated a load of rubbish and plaster debris. And the blast hit this, and it just tilted slowly over and shot the whole lot down, and the entire board of ATV were covered from head to foot in dust. It was the very last thing, and they were all absolutely furious. I was panic-struck. And then dear old Lou started to laugh. And when Lou laughs, you know, everybody laughs.
You folks are still in danger. The tower behind you is going to collapse at any moment.
So the story went around that I had tried to blow up the ATV board, and it was quite untrue.
When Lou was chairman of the Network Programme Committee, and for some reason or other, it got out of hand, and there were all kinds of different points of view and different arguments being expressed at the same time round the table. And it was bedlam. I mean, a tremendous amount of noise. And suddenly, caught up in the excitement of it all, Lou reached for a gavel and banged it on the table, and calling for silence, said, "Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman." And everybody stopped, and David Wilson looked at Lou and said, "But Lou, you're the chairman."
Lou was very much the, in quotes, owner and founder. And one hears the conversations of the legendary rows that he used to have and debates that he used to have with the other owners and founders of the ITV system.
At the time, I didn't work for an ITV company. I worked for Lou Grade. That's the difference. And Lou had this magic quality of making you feel that you were working for him, that you did want to please him, that you didn't want to let him down.
In working there, you had to accept that it was Lou Grade's company, that you were in supporting and putting an effort into it. I mean, people have also categorized it as being a one-man corner shop, and it was that too. But I suppose I've always worked for strong, idiosyncratic men, And I find that a great way of working in business, because you go in, you make your pitch and say, this is what I want to do, A, B, C, and D, and they invariably say yes or no.
Yes, Crossroads was a great idea brought to me by Tessa Diamond. And we did it 3 times a week. And it was enormously successful. And of course we had Noel Gordon playing Meg, and she was wonderful, a great talented performer. And it's still running, as you know. And we often get criticized by the press. We were often criticized by the press. But the public love it, and it's the public that count.
So what happens now?
Well, I've signed the papers and I'll put them in the post this evening.
No.
It's over.
There must be something left we can do.
No, Meg.
Why don't you go and see her? You're in London this afternoon. I'm sure if you both saw each other...
No, I'm not going to see her until I've got the answer to this question. Just give me the number.
Oh, 1 246 6000.
Right, well, I've got some things to do. Anyway, I'll be seeing you. Anyway, take care, Sandy. All the best.
You too. Leave me something to hope for, Stan.
That he was a man of instinct, and when you're a man of and courage, and was not afraid, quite the opposite, to make a decision. Very decisive. There was no gray areas with, well, let's weigh it, let's do this. The normal answers everyone gets in life, and especially in my experience in the entertainment business, we'll think about it, we'll get back to you. There was none of that. Lou could give the fastest no that you have ever heard. Let's do a story about that lamp and that car. No, I'm not interested. Next. And you go right on to something else. There was no waste of time. But on the other hand, if something hit him, his instinct was it would work, and it would work for him. He always considered himself an average person. I don't know what's average about him, but he considers himself an average person.
I am an average viewer. But as time goes on, you get a keener interest in documentary programs and discussion programs. And they're compelling. It makes a change from the ordinary diet.
We were making at that time more single documentaries than any other ITV company in the network. You couldn't get many people to believe that because the image of the company was not such. But statistically, quite definitely it was true.
In the Indian, it was the forest that danced, and the wilderness that seemed free. As if they were the owners of paradise, they welcomed us to man's oasis in the jungle. Music rises from the secret places of a people's soul. The dances were the cathedral and the throne room of Indian life. The dances joined each man in harmony with his universe.
He was terribly proud of the fact that we won an Italia Prize with a tribe that hides from man. He was also rather proud of the Tony Snowden films that Tony did for him in the 60s. And I think that's probably what directed his attention towards documentaries as something which he might even enjoy.
Well, I was bred and born to it, you see, fireman, and I wouldn't want to do anything else. It's a lovely life. toys and stuff. We reared them right up from babies ourselves, and they're like kids, really, you know. Just one big happy family. I'm a happy man. Because, well, I'm absolutely contented with me lot. I don't envy anybody anything. I don't want to be anything different to what I am. And I think some other people, well, the more they have, the more they want, and it sort of makes them discontented, I think. Some people, I mean, there's all sorts to make a world, in it.
Lou wanted to be involved in a worldwide entertainment business as distinct from simply a British one, which he saw, and I think rightly, as a rather parochial restraint. He thought that if you're making entertainment programs in the English language, then you've got a market far, far wider than either the regional franchise or indeed the United Kingdom franchise. And he had much earlier than most people had thought about it, partners in Australia and in California and the States. Elstree was very regularly busy making shows that never came into this country at all.
And of course he wanted to break into the American market, and he tried for years and years and years to achieve what no one else had managed to achieve, and that was to get in on the American networks, and eventually did it through ABC. And he did it very successfully with Tom Jones and with other programs.
So Lou Grade contacted my manager, Gordon Mills, and asked would we be interested in doing a special for ATV in England and ABC in America. It had come from this country, you know, the ABC interest. So we did the special took off, and the series followed.
How do you feel?
When ABC approached Lou for me to do this show, we had to have a meeting. Lou, my manager, myself. And I see him smoking these big cigars. And I said, I tell you what, because they were, Lou and my manager were sort of talking different things. So I said, excuse me. I said, forget about the money side of it. I said, you give me a box of those cigars a week, and you got a deal. So he thought that was great, you see, because I was speaking his language. Because he likes to throw funny things in rather than stay business-like all the time. And he did. Every show that I did, he either sent them to me or brought them to the studio, a box of cigars every week.
Actually, for people who know Sir Lou, the one thing when you're with him in company is never to wear a brown suit, because he does tend to pick you up and like you.
The thing I'll never forget is the size of his cigars, because he had a stretch limousine, and his cigar used to stick out right through the windshield. It was very interesting. But he's always been a delightful guy to have fun with, and we always had a lot of fun with Lou.
He loved performers. His ex-agent days, I didn't know him when he was an agent, but one could readily see, as I saw many, many times, how performers like Bob Hope and Roger Moore and Shirley MacLaine, people I've seen him with, without exception, related to him. He loved performers and they loved him.
I represented Petula and her husband Claude Ruth in London, and I remember suggesting it to Lou that maybe she was saleable in America. I didn't know whether I could sell it to Claude Petula at the time, but I thought I took a chance. Within 24, knowing Lou, within 24 hours he'd sold it, got the deal, and then I had to get Claude up to see him. And I explained, I came clean to them. I said, look, he doesn't know anything about this. He said, don't worry. I said, get him up here. So I got Claude up, and Lou did one of his great selling acts, pouring the tea himself and cutting the cake, and putting the jam on the bread, and practically feeding him. It was just a magical moment. And of course, the deal was in the bag. Lou is what. He's more than a great salesman, but he is the ultimate salesman. He's the best deal closer that's ever lived. A lot of people can start deals. Very few of them know how to close. Very few people know how to close a deal.
What his, I think, unique ability in salesmanship is, in addition to great persistence and the ability through the years that we worked with him, was to make the deal. He just, when he shook your hand, you knew you had a deal. There was no question about it, never any argument over it. And that, coupled with the fact that he obviously loved and relished selling and making those deals. It was joy to him.
This isn't a holiday excursion. I need Dowling and Henderson here to analyze this stuff.
How is Keith?
Fat and pompous.
Are we buying or selling, and if so, what?
I remember when we sold the Edward VII to the United States, I had edited the 13 hours into 6 two-hour movies because we had a serial concept. And I'd had it over there, and I'd been trying to sell it to ABC, CBS, and NBC. And Lou Grade walks into a meeting with Paley, who was the chairman of CBS, and Bob Wood, who at that time was the president. And he said, well, how's everything going? And they said, well, we're really very short. We're looking for 2-hour movies. That's what we really need, Lou. He said, don't worry anymore. I'll sell you 6. Bruce has got 6 that he's edited up. And he came down and told me, he said, I've just got $2.5 million. He came down, he'd finished the deal, and the limousine driver hadn't yet finished from doing a turn around the block.
You can blot them. I knew you could help. Bring a chair. Now with you and Stockmar, I have 2 secretaries. Is something the matter?
I would like to do more. I have studied your politics. We could discuss sometimes.
If you like.
Very much. And also, our home, I would like it to be run more efficiently.
That's Leidson's concern.
But it is our home.
I am perfectly satisfied with it.
But how can you be? The rooms are untidy, the windows always dirty.
Politics are one thing. If there is something to discuss, I shall consult you. But I will have no interference in the household.
So there's nothing more to be said?
Nothing. We will not raise the subject again.
First of all, he's the most persistent man in the world, and does not take no for an answer and just keeps on coming back. If there's no slamming the door at Lou Grade, he comes through the door. And he delivers on whatever he promises. And at the first couple of times you say, you're not going to deliver overnight, long day's journey with Sir Laurence Olivier just like that. He says, yes, I will. And the next day you have a deal. So after one learns by this experience that he does make outrageous promises and then delivers, that's a wonderful technique.
Yes, but you sometimes have ideas and it's impossible to carry them out. You have the intention of carrying them out. But I was a little different. I never promised anything I couldn't keep.
Hey, Kermit, me and the band gonna play at the wedding? What wedding? Well, I just heard the news that you and Miss Fatback was gonna tie the knot and raise chitlins.
Kermit, just a joke. A joke? Well, people would think we're really engaged. It's so sweet sounding when you say it. Well, the engagement is off. Kermit, dear sweetheart, it's not like that. It's like this.
The Muppets really started back in 1954 or 5.
So we worked for about 10 years in mostly adult television and variety shows before we did Sesame Street. And Sesame Street was the first time we'd really worked for children. But that show made a major impact. Then when we took the idea of doing a family show to the networks, they said, no, you know, the Muppets are just for children. And we were saying, no, they'll work on a whole family level if you give it a chance. And they didn't particularly believe it, or were not willing to take that chance. Lou was.
And I said, what about doing a series? He says, we've tried. Nobody wants a series. I said, let's have a go. And I made a series, took a chance, and we sold it. And it was an extraordinary success, both in the entertainment area and both in the financial area. There was one country only which didn't want, in the Middle East, they wouldn't have anything to do with pigs. But everywhere else it was sold, everywhere in the world. I don't think in Russia. I didn't try.
Born to be kissed, I can't resist you are a temptation.
So Lou said, right, John, I'll tell you how I work. We make a deal, we shake hands, that's it, you go away, you make a picture. I said, well, wait a minute, Lou. I mean, there's a lot of things to settle here before we can talk about making a deal or a picture. Waves it away. He said, how much do you want? I said, not a fee. What would you want for a fee? I said, it's not a question. It's $250? $250. I said, no, it's $350. I said, no, look, okay. $500,000. Get my checkbook. Give me my checkbook. So he won't listen to reason. He's insisting on writing out a check for $500,000, which he wants to give me. So he writes out this check for $500,000, where I'm saying, but weekly. But Lou, this could be, it's very difficult. And then he grabs one of his specials, which looks like an Exocet, you see. Now he tries to thrust this into my mouth at the same time. He's trying to push the check into my pocket, and I'm fending him off. And then he suddenly thrusts his hand under my backside, pushes the check under my arse, you see, and pushing the cigar into my mouth at the same time. And I felt like a kind of chorus girl, being assaulted by a stage door Johnny, this incredible assault by $500,000. And so for the rest of the, I'm sitting there with this check, which seems to be turning red hot under my backside, and Lou saying, now John, I tell you how I work. I don't, you go off and make the picture, you have complete control. He said, I don't want to look at rushes, I don't want to look at rough cut, you put on the music, you finish the picture, you do it your way. That's how I work. And I said, wait a minute, look, please. And he said, oh, I know what you're going to say. Other people have told you that too, haven't they? Other people have given you final cut. But nobody will go as far as I go. I don't want to look at the picture when it's finished. So to which there was no answer. I said, why not, foolishly. And he said, I might not like it, and then how can I sell it? So, how can you not fall in love with a man like that?
Well, I think one of my fondest memories was he always insisted on phoning me at 7 o'clock in the morning, on the dot. And I happen to work very late. He goes to bed early, so I worked about 1 in the morning, and I like to have my 8 hours or 7.5 hours. I'm getting very decrepit, as you can see. And he would, so I had to take to bed with me and have on the bedside table these masses of files, because I knew I was going to be woken up at 7 o'clock and asked things like, why are we paying Joan Collins a living allowance? She's English. And what are we paying Sophia Loren? And what's her billing clause? And what's Robert Mitchum's car allowance? And I would be clutching for these files at 7, and they all fall on the floor. And I'd be half in bed and half on the floor trying to have an intelligent conversation. So I finally said to Lou, I said, who do I have to sleep with in this company? He's got on the 8 o'clock phone call list. But he never told me.
When his company started to go into the filmmaking business, he would tell us about all these marvelous films that he was going to make. One Christmas lunch, at the end of it, he took Cyril and me to one side and said, don't tell the others, but I've got a Christmas present for you both. Special. Come to my office after when you break up. Don't say a word to the other guy. And Cyril and I dutifully went to Lou's office afterwards, and there on his desk were 2 large, beautifully wrapped boxes of pink ribbon. Enormously impressive. Here you are, boys. Just want to express my gratitude for your cooperation over the years. Merry Christmas to you both. Thanks, Lou. Aren't you going to open them? Oh, all right. So we opened them, took off the ribbon, opened the wrapping, took off the lid. And inside were either the shooting scripts or the draft scripts or the novels from which the draft and shooting scripts had been derived of the films that Lou was planning to make. And he proceeded to take them out one at a time. This one, you're going to love this. This is going to be the biggest film that they've ever had. Even with the Christmas present, which is a strange kind of Christmas present, the Christmas present, he was selling it to us at the same time as he was giving it to us. And we adored him for that. I mean, that was irresistible.
Once you're 70, you're forced to retire. And Lou, being what he is, wanted to carry on till 2000 or something, not being able to run television any longer, he obviously turned to films, which was a medium akin to it. And some films went well, and other films failed, which is the norm.
Well, there are no companies now which operate in the same way as ATV did in the 60s and 70s. It's probably inevitable, it's certainly sad, but it's to do with the one-man ownership factor. I mean, it's really that the thing was made in the image of that man and his tastes. And television companies now are much more complex and boring organizations.
I am most proud of Jesus of Nazareth because it took 2 years of my life. I must have worked over that period of 2 years, 18 to 20 hours a day. I'd sometimes have 2 or 3 hours sleep because I was determined that that would not offend any denomination. And as you know, it was an extraordinary, remarkable success.
They seem to be kings, Lord Melchior, from different lands.
I told you we could not have been the only ones to see the sign.
Come in peace. Where are you bound?
Wherever I am led, I follow that star.
The only way he could really get the money for this picture was to get a major sponsor in the United States to put up most of the money. And he went to General Motors, and this very waspish conservative people, and to sell them this idea. And what I liked about the story was how he went in there and telling the story, just like he did with all his other projects, telling them this story about Jesus Christ, and as though it was a fresh, brand new story that nobody had ever heard of. And that when he got to the crucifixion, he said, wait a minute, I know what you're going to say, it's a downer, right? It's a downer. He said, but no, he said, wait. He said, it doesn't end there. He rises again.
It's a cute story. I like it. Unlike most of the stories that tell about me, I wish I had thought of the things myself.